Welcome, everybody. My name is Brenda and I'm the Chief Compliance Officer here at INOVARE. I'd like to welcome you all to our webinar on the draft CMS 2021 Audit Protocol Changes. Forewarned is forearmed. As we get started, I want to share some information to keep the presentation moving smoothly. Attendee phones will be placed on mute throughout the presentation. And if you have any questions, go ahead and submit them in the chat box, as I clearly see everybody knows how to use, so that's wonderful. We'll do our best to answer any of the questions that come in after the presentation. And if we run out of time, we are happy to respond to every question via email or even a phone call. So today's presentation should go approximately 45 minutes, give or take. And with that said, we can go ahead and get started. Oh, excuse me. Gabriel Viola was going to present with me today, but he had an unforeseeable conflict. So with me today is the wonderful Judi Mason, INOVARE's Director of Compliance, who's been working on these protocols. So welcome, Judi, and thanks for taking the time to present with me today.
Thanks, Brenda. Hi, everybody. Happy to be here. Today, we're first going to go over the history of these changes and the timeline of what's taken place with the protocol changes for 2021. We'll be looking at the universes and their tables, and this includes discussion on the layout changes with the organizational areas that we typically find are impacted for each universe. And this will be followed by a summary of the content changes for fields that have been added, removed, or changed in some way. And finally, we'll consider actions that are recommended now while the final protocols are being developed, followed by any questions that are submitted.
Thank you. So in review, some of you may remember CMS first presented these changes during a May 2018 Plan Audit and Enforcement Conference called the New Approach to 2019 Audits and Universes. At that time, I remember thinking, oh no, they can't seriously expect us to put these in place for 2019. Fortunately, they did not, but it's been hanging over us ever since. The original draft for the 2021 protocols was released for a 60-day comment period back on December 6, 2019, with the response period that closed on February 4th of 2020. On May 30th, CMS reprioritized and postponed the program audits in response to COVID-19. And on June 4th of 2020, the amended draft protocols were released with a 30-day comment period. In this release, CMS took into account the comments provided in the previous comment period. The second comment period closed on 7/6/2020, and a smaller scale program audit plan was then resumed with notices that had been issued plans by 7/27/2020. And this brings us to the current status awaiting the final protocols.
And as a side note, CMS had indicated in several places on the comment response document that Brenda referred to, mentioning that they're making every effort to provide the final protocols with adequate time for plans to prepare for the large scope changes contained in this update. And a little bit later, we'll be going over the proactive steps you can be taking to address these updates, with the expectation when a final version is issued, the updates will be minimal, and so would any adjustments that would be needed.
Okay, so before looking at the individual table changes, let's consider some of the overarching changes affecting the majority of the universe tables. Some of these include the columns noting who made the request, have been adjusted to reflect a terminology update to replace beneficiary B/BR with enrollee, EER. Many of the initial determination and appeal tables are reporting approval, denial, and dismissal for request determinations. Grievance tables are not effective since they don't report as approvals and denials. And cases are mostly included in a table based on a date of determination. Therefore, open and untimely cases are no longer part of the report. Yay! That's so great. Although you definitely want to still keep an eye out on your open and untimely cases internally.
Right. At the very least, they're going to matter for your internal monitoring of timeliness.
Agreed. All right, so requests, appeals, and grievances that have been withdrawn are now excluded from the tables. Table responses of NA or N-A will be replaced with none. The Timeliness Monitoring Project, TMP, will be limited to Part C as in CAT data only. For the 2020 TMP, we have seen from an HMS memo, they will be reviewing the ODAG tables for SREC, EREC, and PREC. We'll start with the proposed updates to the CDAG universe, since it was ODAG that had the biggest impact. The major change throughout is the reduction in the number of tables, since they are combined and will include fields to define if the case was standard or expedited.
Just to level set, CDAG 2020 currently has 13 tables that will be consolidated into 6 tables.
There's also a new universe table, number 7, the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act, At-Risk Determination, or AR.
The AR table contains information tracking the at-risk process of a plan's drug management program.
So now we will look at the CDAG updates.
I'm going to try to share a dashboard to help demonstrate. Can everybody see the dashboard view?
Well, I can.
Okay, I hope that means everybody else can. So the impact dashboard here presents the consolidation between the new 2021 layout to the 2020 layouts, along with the business processes impacted. And for business impacts, delegation oversight will be seen throughout as a common inclusion in order to take into account any of these functions that might be delegated. And we're using some general naming for business areas here. Although your plan may call them something else, forgive us if we say A and G and you say G and A, tomato. So the first 2020 table under CDAG is the CD table, and it's covering standard and expedited coverage determinations is contained in the 2020 tables, 1 for SCD and 4 for ECD. And business impact could include your pharmacy PBM, and as I said, delegation oversight. The second table for CDER is standard and expedited exception request, contained in 2020 table 2 for SCDER and 5 for ECDER. And we see the same business impacts on this level. For table 3 in 2021, it's the payment D table, which includes DMR coverage determinations and redeterminations, table 3 and 7. And then you'll note here that the A&G department has been included in the impact considerations. Table 4 is for RD, which stands for standard and expedited redeterminations, encompassing the 2020 table 6 SRD and 8 ERD. And we see that A&G continues to be part of the impact here. On table 5 for effectuation or EFFD, we see that they're combining effectuations of IRA, ALJ, and MAC overturn decisions, which then therefore combines the tables 9 SIAM, 10 DMRRE, and 11 EIAM. And A&G continues on the impact list here. Table 6 for grievance in Part D covers standard and expedited grievances for Part D, and which coincides with the 2020 table 12 for SGD and 13 for EGD. And again, A and G is still a player. And then finally, the AR table is new. And it's again part of the at-risk determinations in a drug management program from either the pharmacy department or your PBM. Okay, now for columns added, we'll look at a different dashboard shown here. CDAG. These are the columns that have been added. You can see there's quite a few of them. I'll expand to indicate which tables they're being included on. They're listed in alphabetical order. So authorizations and claim numbers have been added to the CDs, CDER payment and redetermination table. The date effectuated in the system has been included in the payment detail. I heard echo. And then as well as the subscriber supporting statement has been received. Then formulary exception type involves 3 tables, including the formulary type. So we see 3 different tables affected here. This indicates information such as prior auth, step therapy, quantity limits, and also safety edit exceptions that might apply. Is this a protected drug, class drug? Is now included in tables 3 and 5. NDC information has been added for the effectuation table. It's found in other tables, but now they're including it here. And if there's any audio issues, I definitely apologize. The time the request was upgraded to expedited affects only the CD table for coverage determinations. The type of request field is added to the payment table for identifying if the case involved is a coverage determination or a redetermination. The type of request reversed by the review entity identifies standard requests for benefits, payment, or at-risk determinations, and the expedited request for benefits and at-risk determinations. And then whether the grievance was processed as standard or expedited is included on the grievance table. And then the first requests is on the coverage determination tables and the redetermination table. And then who made the request, oh, quit moving, has been added to several tables to the CDER payment and redetermination table. You can see from this table for remove columns that the enrollment effective date has been removed from all of the CDAG tables. If the beneficiary was residing in a long-term care facility and if the request was denied for lack of medical necessity, is no longer requested in the coverage determination tables. If an AOR was required, yes or no is no longer collected for CDER and payment tables, although they still capture receipt dates and times in the universe. The grievance D table will not collect the extension notification question columns for if the member was notified and did the notice include that the delay was in the member's best interest. And finally, the resolution description has also been removed from the grievance tables.
Very nice, Judy. So moving on to the ODAG table changes. We continue to see a reduction in the overall universe table count due to the combining of expedited and standard universe tables, with fields added to define if the case was standard or expedited. New fields included to identify Part B as in boy drugs, and combining the IRE, ALJ, and MAC.
In ODAG, the 2020 universe has 14 tables, and that will be condensed to 5 tables for 2021.
Right. So just like in Part D as in dog, the determination values are specifically the approved, denied, and dismissed cases, except for Table 2. Table 3, payment, includes the non-contracted providers and enrollee claims and DMR requests and appeals. Contracted provider claims are no longer part of the submission. The new universe table, dual eligible special need plans, determined to be an applicable integrated plan, AIP.
The AIP table is for reporting DSNP reduction, suspension, and termination of services, and any associated appeals that aren't handled by the QIO. So we're going to go back to the dashboard view. Give me a second while I toggle. So looking at the layouts for ODAG, we'll scoot down here, and you'll note that in the customer impact, we again include delegation oversight as it might pertain to any delegated entities. Table 1 is the OD table that is consolidating 1 OD, 2 EOD, and 4 dismissals. Plan impact would include the UM department for initial determinations. Table 2 is for recon. Table for standard and expedited pre-service reconsiderations. And this also includes dismissals, as well as Table 5 SREC and Table 6 for EREC. And ANG enters the picture again. Table 3 is the payment C table addressing both payment org determinations and reconsiderations, and again includes dismissals. It includes along with 5 for SREC. I'm sorry, I don't see that here. I'm on the wrong table. 4 for DMR, 7 for PEREC, and then DMRs as well. The effectuation C table, number 4, combines overturned decisions like CDAG did for IRE, ALJ, and MAC, currently reported on Table 8 for IRE EFF, IRE claims EFF, and ALJ MAC, Table 10. And then Table 5 for grievances, Part C, for standard and expedited grievances is a consolidation of Table 11 for GRVS and 12 for GRVE. And then again, AIP is the new member of the family to report initial and appealed reductions, suspensions, and terminations for DSNP services. Department impact is A&G and your UM department. And then chapter guidance was recently released in a draft version and has been completing comment review and is under consideration as it was provided in a memo from June 4th.
Okay.
And then finally, going back to columns that are added and looking at the dashboard, we will look at ODAG here. And excuse me, columns have been added to identify Part B drug request in the ODAG and recon tables. The EFFC had tables for, columns to identify which review entity is involved in the overturn. And there is also type of consideration in the same table to if standard, expedited, or payment. A column to identify a clean claim or not was added to payment C. And whether the grievance or request was a standard or expedited has been added to these three tables. And then whether a request was processed as an org determination or a reconsideration is added to the payment table. The removed columns are quite numerous, so there's a lot of impact here, but they're shown on two slides. We'll start with provider type. The provider type is no longer shown on the OD, recon, and payment C tables. Diagnosis is no longer collected for the same tables. Was interest paid on the request from both payment C and effectuation, or I'm sorry, yeah, payment and the effectuation tables. And then if an extension was taken, did the sponsor notify the member of the reasons for the delay and their right to file an expedited grievance? Has been removed from the OD, recon, and grievance C tables. And then the OD table also removed date and time and that it was entered or effectuated in the sponsor system. The type of request is shown in the current dismissals table for grievance, pre-service or org determination, reconsideration, that type of thing. And the date the request was dismissed has been absorbed by the date of determination column for 2021. The reason for dismissal has been included in the issue description and type of service, and then appealed to the IRE and date forwarded to the IRE were also from the dismissal table and no longer captured. The second page for removals for the EFFC table was request for the expedited time frame. Date written notification was provided to the IRE. Date sponsor appealed. Did the sponsor appeal the ALJ decision to the MAC? And date written notification provided to the enrollee. For grievance C, the columns removed are identifying who made the request, the other extension question for advising the member the delay was in their best interest, and the resolution description. And after all that information, just remember, if there are any questions, be sure and submit them in the QA or chat feature.
Absolutely, and I have to apologize. Apparently, I forgot to mute my phone, but thank you to Ben Connor for reminding me to do so. So sorry. All right, so now to cover, I'm sorry?
I said, especially when I'm talking too much.
I am bad. Now to cover CPE and FA layout changes. Compliance program effective table changes involve, ready, the combination of F-Team, IA, and IM universes to now be the COA, or Compliance Oversight Activities. The ECT universe has been removed, although CMS will request a listing of employees involved in program delivery. The audit period has been reduced from 52 weeks to 26 weeks. On the formulary administration FA tables, the tables and layouts remain mostly unchanged. However, there are 2 new impact analysis requests that have been added to the protocols.
These impact analyses are requests that would be made after sample selection during an audit and not part of the actual universe submission. Okay, going back to our interactive dashboard, we will take a look at the layout for CPE, which just disappeared. So I'll go back to that. So now there will only be one table collected, and that's the COA table that combines all 3 of the previous tables for F-Team, IA, and IM. And obviously the plan impacts would be delegation oversight for F-Team, internal audit for IA, and internal monitoring for IM. And then coming back to the presentation, we have some, we'll only go over the updates for CPE since FA had no real content changes, and CPE didn't not have any new columns added in the 2021 layout, but for removed columns, the name of the FTE and the function responsibilities are not included. 2020 columns for auditor and monitor type are removed. Identified deficiencies are no longer required. And the description of corrective action is no longer required.
Hey, Brenda and Judi, this is Tom Wagner. I'm Director of Marketing at INOVARE. Hi, everyone. We do have a couple questions. I wanted to see if those are things you want to address now or at the end of the session. Can you see the questions in the Q&A?
I can't.
No, I can't as well. I'm sorry. I can only see what's in the chat.
No, yeah, well, I'll go ahead and read the questions and say an anonymous attendee is asking, I'm not seeing the 2021 programmatic protocols on the CMS website, just 2020 that was recently finalized in September. Where would we be able to find a copy of the 2021 final copies for the program areas? Will they be set with the slides?
So those are in the HPMS memo where the draft was issued. There was a link to where they're located. It's not on the typical audit website on CMS because they're not in a final version yet. They won't be posted there until that time. So there is a link, but we can definitely forward that information to you after the, if you provide us your email, we'll forward you that link.
Yeah, we can send you the link and this deck and some other information. Perfect. Judi, there's another question from Heather. She asked, do you know why the resolution was removed from the grievance resolution?
No, unfortunately, I don't begin to try and figure out what CMS is doing. I felt the same way. I'm like, really? You're not, there's no indication of how the resolution came out on a grievance. And so it did seem a little odd to not have that included. But at this point, it's not there, and they may change their mind at some point.
Yeah, before they go to final, they could change their mind again. I mean, obviously, that's really going to show member impact, so.
Yes, I mean, I look at it like when we're looking at a universe ourselves, if we're trying to evaluate a universe, maybe in a monitoring activity or something like that, that column is actually very helpful. So again, you might, for internal monitoring, you might want to make that something that you keep in what you produce, but it's not going, so far, it's not going to be required by CMS when you submit a universe.
Correct. All right, we do have one more question from Misty Richardson.
Got it.
Let's go ahead and read that real quick. Judi, I'll read this to you. Is the COA now only monitoring and auditing conducted by compliance? Previously, it included monitoring that, for example, A&G did on their processes.
Really, you're going to include any type of, for instance, when I worked for a health plan, they do a routine monitoring on a regular basis for different business areas, and they would have requested information, for instance, from A&G on a monthly basis to monitor, and that's the type of information that would have been reported on the monitoring universe. So you know, if that's part of the record that you keep, you can report it, and what the results were, or caps issued from that type of thing. That's what you would keep record of.
All right, excellent. So I think that was it. I know Heather asked regarding producing the new universes. There's some questions. I'm sure a lot of you have questions out here. We are happy to answer them. We're happy to help you. We're happy to, you can call us, you can email us. I won't speak for Judi, but I will definitely say some of us around here are kind of compliance dorks and we really like it. All right, so we'll keep answering the questions as they come in, and then we'll finish up these slides. Okay, so the previous SNP mock universe has been renamed as the SNPCC universe. Changes to this include, excuse me, first, they removed the Plan Performance Monitoring and Evaluation, PPME table. CMS is introducing some new impact analyses that may be requested for enrollees that fall outside the expected completion timeframes for an initial or annual health risk assessment that are identified during the audit. We're not really going to discuss this too much in length right now on these requirements since they're not really considered universe tables, but we do highly recommend that everyone becomes familiar with these ASAP, and of course, any questions you might have.
Right, and I'll go back to the dashboard again for this table. Again, we only have the one table now for SNPE was in 2021. It's related to the same table in 2020. And you have impacts to a plan's coordinated care department and any possible delegated entities. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Okay, and then columns added. I guess I did mean to do that. That was an accident. So when it comes to, sorry about that, when it comes to the SNP table, we see that these are columns that have been added to capture date, the initial HRA, and then they've added the acronym IHRA was completed. Previously, that was a yes or no answer. Now they want a date. The date of the most recent HRA, the date the most recent ICP, previously a yes or no answer, now a date. The enrollee risk stratification level at the time of the audit engagement letter, the most recent plan change effective date, and was an interdisciplinary care team or ICT created or identified. Columns were removed concerning the enrollment mechanism, the date the completed enrollment request was received, was an initial HRA completed 90 days before or after enrollment. That's what I mentioned earlier about the yes or no, but now it's a date. Did the sponsor conduct an HRA during the current audit period? Date an HRA was conducted and completed during the current audit period. Was an ICP completed? Again, that was yes or no. Now you need a date and the cumulative dollar amounts for claims paid and denied.
So based on the scope of the expected changes, we are taking a proactive approach for our products here at INOVARE. From a health plan perspective, there are preparational steps you can and should take to ready yourself for the final version, of course, when it does become available. And I am seeing questions from people asking when these will be finalized. And if only I knew the minds of CMS.
I did mention earlier that there was a lot of comments in the previous review that they asked about when they would have them. And each time they simply said that they were going to have them in a time for plans to prepare. That's as vague as it can get, but that's how it is. And so typically, we tend to see these types of updates happen. It's just not usually this large of a project, but we tend to see these updates somewhere in November, maybe early December. So all we can do is watch and wait and hold on to our seats.
That's correct. And while you're getting ready for this, we all know they're coming out. We know they're going to retro them to January if they come out later. So just a couple steps for everyone to keep in mind, making sure that you're engaging with your operational. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
No, that was fine. I started to interrupt you.
Sorry. Oh, you're welcome to. Please feel free.
The only thing I was going to include was that if they can, resume a typical audit calendar, that tends to start in March. So I don't know if they think they're giving you enough time if they give you this in January or what.
Well, and that's part of this, kind of why this is so important. In CMS's mind, they expect that the reason they release these draft reviews is for everyone to start preparing. I know it feels a little awkward because we don't know what's going to be finalized, but they try to, in their mind, they're being as transparent as possible. So if everyone's working on this, it shouldn't come as a shock. If they release these in February and retro them back to January and you're on the docket for March or April or May, this shouldn't come as a surprise in their mind. So, and with that, these are some of the steps that CMS kind of, best practices they recommend, of course, which is engaging in your operational and compliance areas for collaboration. I would recommend IT as well, work with them, share these slide decks with them, have these meetings. Working with your delegates to make sure they're preparing for universe layout and submission, obviously, especially for those who run a highly delegated model. Creating your templates for each table. I know that there have been some questions asking about any of these tables. Judi, I have a feeling you're going to get a lot of requests for some of these table layouts. Some examples of some subtle changes, you know, how are your universe tables currently produced? Working with any of your vendors that produce these tables or data that is pulled from their systems to create these tables. Any new or additional values that need to be addressed within your systems. And obviously, the most important, conducting internal testing, validations, auditing, and monitoring to assure all the accuracy. So at the end of the day, the truth is we all have to make these adjustments with the great hope to generate the cleanest universe in a perfect real time. And we just want to let you know, as a vendor, we actually feel your pain. Judi and I both come from a very long healthcare background, not just on the vendor side. So we feel this pain, and we take great pride in actually being a vendor that works on this as hard as the health plan does. So really, the truth is, you want to view your organization the same way CMS views your health plan. That's what we do here at INOVARE. And so I want you to just remember that by adopting the CMS perspective, consider how you might overhaul your compliance program. And I promise you, as a very nerdy compliance officer, it will change your life. Obviously, there's lots of ways to do it. You can build it yourself. You can get this through consulting companies. There's some really amazing ones out there. And there's, of course, great vendors out there. Let me just pat Judi on the back for being my favorite compliance person ever. And of course, no health plan is the same. All three options play a valuable role. At the end of the day, you have to do something. And depending on your organization's unique circumstances, pros and cons associated with each one of these, and your appetite for risk or budget, that will make your determination. But remember, at the end of the day, not taking any action on these and really taking these seriously and working on them now is the biggest risk of all. So we do have some time left. Happy to open this up for any more questions, unless we put you all to sleep and you're all running away from us.
We do have a few additional questions. One from Philip Ramirez is saying, nice dashboards. Can those be shared as well?
Absolutely. We are happy to share all the information you saw here today. Mr. Tom, the moderator, I'm assuming you're also capturing everything that's coming in these chats. I am seeing some emails coming in. People would like to see these slides. I also am seeing requests for some of the templates and some follow-up questions that they would like to reach out regarding these. We are happy to work with you, talk with you, share this information. Yes. I guess the short answer would be yes.
Thanks, Brenda. And we have an anonymous attendee asking, do you think there's any chance that CMS will continue the use of the 2020 protocols for the 2021 audit season?
I mean, it's possible. It's going to depend on when they finalize.
Right.
So
Yes.
really, the goal is to be prepared with both. Attack these new drafts like they're going to be ready starting January 1. Your plan go live year. However, you're going to have to make sure that your 2020 is ready, because we don't know when they're going to finalize these. So you're going to have to work both of these simultaneously.
Right, and keep in mind too, on the 2020 protocols, you know, they gave them to us in June, but they're expecting you now to use them all the way back to the beginning of the year for the timeliness monitoring project starting in January. So yeah, you need to be ready at any time.
At any time. We know they're always going to retro. Why would they ever give us a date and move forward? They're going to retro it every time, so you're going to have to run both of these.
Okay. Thanks, ladies. And then we have a question. Does it, if the audit period resumes in March, smaller plans would cross protocols with 2020. The 12-week look back would push into December 2020. Would the earliest a small plan could get an engagement notice then effectively be April 1st?
I'm sorry, I kind of didn't catch the last part.
Yeah, let me repeat the question. Would the earliest a small plan could get an engagement notice then effectively be April 1st?
Let me make sure I'm understanding. Are you asking if audit notices are resuming in March approximately, although we know they can come at any time, meaning because of the look back period, meaning you won't get something before April? I'm assuming that's the question, but Judi, go ahead and grab that. I was having a hard time hearing Tom well.
If I'm understanding the correction or the question correctly, the look back period could stretch back into December, depending on when it was received and the size of the plan.
Okay, I apologize for the audio on my end. I wasn't actually expecting to to be speaking, but we have some more questions. I'm not sure if you're able to see them. Brenda, can you see them in the Q&A window?
Unfortunately, I can only see a chat window.
Okay. All right. Then I'll have to I apologize to everyone to have to listen to my voice. There's nothing I can do.
That's all right. You know, and that's fine. If they come in through the chat, I'm happy to read them. Otherwise, maybe the ones in the Q&A, Tom, why don't you make sure you get a good screenshot of them and the people attached to them, and we will reach out to them.
I'll just read them. Let me just read them because I can't see any way to record them. So if the audit, so we just answered that. So Missy was asking, what platform do you use to create those dashboards?
Ours.
That's the INOVARE platform.
Okay, and we have a question for Part B drugs. Which table would apply to this? What about the cases where we use the denied D, approved B? These are BVD cases that are processed as coverage determinations and denied under Part D, but approved under Part B.
Oh, there we go. So Judi, they're asking the B as in boy versus D as in dog.
Well, under normal circumstances, Part B tends to fall under Part C. But from what I understand from the comment document referred to previously, is that really it's going to be handled based on how it came in. Did it come in under Part D or did it come in under Part C?
And what table will the B as in boy drugs apply to?
It applies to any table that's asking if there's a if it involves Part B. There's a column in many of the tables that ask if it's a Part B request.
Correct.
Yes or no.
And those are all on the new table headers.
Correct. So far.
Okay. There's another question here. If we were selected January and February, would we be in the 2021 layout and December would be in the 2020 layout? Again, it's going to depend on when they finalize. So again, let's say you received an audit notice on March 1st. If they had not finalized them yet, then the 2020 rules are still going to apply.
I also had somebody comment previously that if you were to get an audit in January prior to the audit calendar, the typical CMS audit calendar, if you got one in January for some reason, because they can happen at any time, but if you received it in January and you weren't prepared for the 2021 layout, then you just have to explain that to CMS and ask for an exception to submit them in the 2020 layout.
Yeah, but, and because CMS doesn't give you an exact time frame, they you know, they say that they allow you a certain amount of time, but let's say, for example, that CMS finalized the 2021 regulations on February 15th, and on March 1st, you received the audit notice. Even though they don't give you an exact amount of time to make these changes, they probably are not going to hold you to the 2021, just based on the fact that you're still finalizing. Now, if they finalize them on February 15th and you get pulled, you know, in May, they're going to expect that you have those done. And I'm sorry, I can't give you a better answer than that, because they don't say we only allow, you know, 15 or 30-day window. It's up to their discretion. So run on the conservative side is my best answer. Anything else? Maybe they don't like our answers, Judy.
We have a question related to the new ODAG Table 6. Is the universe limited to previously approved services that are reduced, suspended, or terminated only?
Correct. That's right. That was too easy of an answer, or too quick of an answer. Not that it was easy. It was quick.
Somebody give Judy a really hard one.
No.
Anything else?
Oh, shoot.
Well, like I said, if nothing else, oh wait, nope, there's a new one. Ready? Oh
Go.
no, that's the one that Tom just read. I'm sorry, it just came in on the chat. Oh, and there we go. If you want the presentation dashboard recording, what information do you need, or will this be sent to everyone? Okay, so my understanding, and Tom the moderator can correct me if I'm erroneous, is that this will be sent to everybody who left an email with the registration, so that they can send this back out. If you have additional questions or want to chat, you can either add an email and a phone number, or you can reach out to us, or call INOVARE and ask for Judi or Brenda. We don't hide very well. You can find this, but also I think as long as you're in here, Tom will be sending this to everybody. Okay, question from Pamela Cleveland. In 2017, CMS finalized the protocols late on Friday, and we were selected first thing Monday morning. Ouch, Pamela Cleveland. And we were held to the universe's finalized one business day ago. Ow. Ow, my heart hurts for you. I wish I could hear your voice, but I know that hurt, and I'm assuming that it's because CMS said you were supposed to be on top of those draft regs. Ms. Cleveland, if you ever would like to chat about this, I'd be more than happy to. Again, it can be that harsh, but it also can go, and it's also going to depend on who you get.
Mm-hmm. Very much.
Yeah. All auditors are not created equal. Okay, another question. Oh, nope, that's somebody. Oh, yeah, okay, that's somebody giving a CMS response to the group. Okay. Tom, anything else coming in?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. We don't have any other questions.
No.
Okay. So Tom, as the moderator, do you just want to confirm how everybody will be able to find this information? Whether, I'm assuming we will also have it on our website if anyone wants to go there. Otherwise, you'll be sending it out. I don't want to answer for you.
Yeah, and I did want to also bring up if there's any plans attending right now that have an MMP line of business. We have analyzed the draft protocols released for CDAG and their new MMPCC table. And so if we have enough interest, we can also have another webinar for CDAG and the CC.
Yeah. Or if there's more interest on this, by all
Right,
means, let us know. Drop us a line. Let us know if you'd like to do another something in this realm. We won't repeat it exactly, or if there's a certain area you want us to drill down on, or whatever you guys are interested in. Believe it or not, Judi and I like to talk.
and my understanding on the interactive dashboards that we used throughout, they're going to be available in about a week's time on our website, and we can send you notification when they're posted. We'll also be making this presentation along with a recording of the webinar added to our website if you've missed any portion. And check back. We're also starting a knowledge base on our website, on our page, and we'll post some additional materials concerning the information we've gone over today for your reference, like the template layouts for the each of the tables. And so we can, we're past the hour. We can leave the meeting on for a bit longer. If you happen to have any additional questions, you can still send those to us in this meeting, and we can put it in an FAQ document that we'll put together. Or you can reach out to us at info@inovare.com.
Exactly. All right. Thank you, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope this wasn't too boring. We tried to keep it as lively as we could and as informative as we could, but thank you.
Thanks.